Hello everyone. My name is Daya Prakash and I'm your host today. I welcome you all to this session, this panel discussion which is organized by Reskill. And the topic of today's discussion is OpenAI and its impact on employability. Um, for having discussion during this panel discussion today, I have esteemed speakers with me, Mr. Santeri, Dr. Loviraj, Mr. Vikas, Mr. Jaydeep Kevalramani. So I welcome you all to this session today. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule to be here and have discussion on this topic, which is, I would say, the right context around this topic is yet not set. People are facing a lot of uncertainties around this whole thing while they are having the discussion on the topic. But I believe end of this discussion today, we all will have much more clarity in terms of how helpful the evolution of the AI is going to help all of us versus the challenges it poses on all of us. So, looking forward to a very interesting discussion today. Let me invite Mr. Santeri first to kind of come in and introduce himself. So, over to you, Mr. Santeri.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Hope everyone is having a great afternoon. So yes, my name is Santeri Koivisto. I currently work as the head of international affairs and education export here at Southeastern Finland Applied Science University here in Finland. My background, how I actually ended up here, I've been working in education technology startups for about 10 years as a CEO, as a startup founder. Minecraft education version was maybe the biggest deal that I've been able to build so far. Exited to Microsoft around 2016. Have been building a couple other businesses since then. And following closely education, of course, universities, how the globalization is moving forward, inviting a lot of Indian students to our university, which has been great. So really looking forward to this conversation and, of course, trying to use as much AI in my work as I can.
Great, fantastic. Great to know that. Mr. Jaydeep.
Thank you, and such a pleasure to be on this panel. So I currently work as the head of employability business and as the chief operating officer at TeamLease EdTech. We are a part of the TeamLease group. As you can see behind me, our focus is to making India employable. And we work with a lot of universities and corporates to help them come together on the intersection of building the talent supply chain of the future. In my past assignments, I've spent some time with technology companies like Zensar and Thomson Reuters. I've dabbled a little bit in the space of startups as well. And on the field of AI, I've worked actively on 4 patents, mostly on neural pathways and machine learning. And this ChatGPT thing, the generative AI has captured everyone's imagination, including mine. Looking forward to sharing my views on this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Same here. Look forward to. Dr. Loviraj, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daya. Good evening, everybody. My name is Loviraj Gupta, and I'm the Pro Vice Chancellor with Lovely Professional University at Punjab. I also head the Faculty of Technology and Science, encompassing all the engineering programs along with agriculture, biosciences, and bioengineering. Personally, I have more than 32 years of experience in education and with central government associations. I worked as assistant controller and implemented IT Act 2000 and digital signatures in this country. Right now, I'm exploring that how this advent of new technologies would affect the education and the teaching learning paradigm. Thank you for inviting me here.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. Mr. Vikas.
Hi, thank you there. It's been a pleasure to be part of this panel. And my experience, I've been in the technological industry for almost 25 years now. Started my career way back in '95. Finally I landed working up with Goldman Sachs UK. I managed their equities trading division for Europe, Asia, and US on the technology side. Moved back to India and have been an entrepreneur since then. So we and my partners in New York. We run this IT technology company based out of northern India, in Gurgaon and Noida. So we are a team of about 130 people now, working across different aspects of technology for the last 15 plus years. And yes, it's the way this new technology has started impacting every industry, and we are in the cusp of this thing because we can see the change happening at everywhere, and how it is impacting every verticals and different businesses. So it's a pleasure to be part of this panel, and look forward to this discussion today.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. So, before even we start discussion about the OpenAI Chat GPT, I just want to take a step back, and since Dr. Laviraj is also here with us today, who brings in more than 3 decades of experience in the education industry, right? I just want to focus or take your views on how have you seen the whole evolution of the state of employability, with regards to what the gap has been, much talked about between the industry and the academia. So, what has been your view on what's your view on that? Before you even reach to Chat GPT or OpenAI, but some ground realities.
See, let us start with the very primordial kind of foundation. I'll talk about Industry 4.0 first, because therein the employability would have a bigger perspective and the horizons would be a little bigger. See, when Industrial Revolution 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 of mechanization, of electricity coming into picture, and then automation coming into picture, and finally 4.0, that is cyber physical systems. At each revolution, at each stage, people thought that there'll be lack of employability and people will start losing their earnings or bread and butter, or maybe their employment. But then what has happened, we need to understand. We need to really look deep into the history, that what has happened with the advent of evolutions and revolutions, be it in form of technology, be it in form of civilization. What has happened, that the new forms of working has come up, has surfaced, which primarily has changed the learning style and pattern in an individual. Jobs never got lost. People used to think, when there was computerization way back in maybe around 2000 or just late 90s, in the banks, when the computerization was happening in the banks, people were completely scared and afraid that they are going to lose their jobs and the entire systems would be doing the banking. But we need to look to it with a different lens. New forms of banking has come up. New frames of ideologies around banking and finance came up, and now there are more jobs available in banking and finance. The same is going to be the case. I'm looking to the positive side of it, because people, they generally look to the scarier part of the picture, but there is always a positive part of a picture. And specifically in education, we as educationists need to look to the brighter side of it rather than the shadow of it. And the brighter side of it is, any of the technology which is going to come would bring paradigmatic shifts in the teaching, learning, and knowledge building and skill building frameworks. The jobs would be curated more. That is my perspective.
Sure, but I just want to stay with you for a minute, Mr. Santari. I'm coming to you, but I just want to stay for another minute with you. Is that how has been your experience around the whole evolution of employability? I recently gone through this report, which is a skill development report, which talks about the employability quotient reaching over 50% now, vis-a-vis what it used to be in early, like 2008, 2009 around. It was less than 25%, maybe 20% or so, right? So, what's your take on that?
See, with new knowledge, with new with new styles of teaching learning coming into picture, the employability would always scale up. The readiness of the students would always grow fonder and fonder by times. Because now, see, what changes I've seen in past 3 decades is the acceptability. I always talk about this, that Gen Z or millennials need to have skill sets. I'm talking about the employability. How do you scale up the employability? The
Sure.
Gen Z need to have the skill set, but more than skill set, they need to have the will set. That is very, very important, because only skill set would not help. The will set
Sure.
associated with the
Sure.
skill set would
Right.
surely rise up the scalability, scale the employability. That's my point of view.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Raj. Mr. Hanteri, you had some point of view here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that this narrative that people will lose their jobs has been happening with computerization, with industrialization, in the 1900s or 1800s, and also like with automation. And if like exactly how Doctor said that the skill set has been changing now. Back in the days, it was a skill to be and pull a lever to pour tomato sauce on a pizza. Now, no longer that's considered a skill set that you can get yourself employed. And of course, that makes us, more demands for us humans to acquire more skill sets. I think that the worry with me currently is that when I look at like what type of media and interactive media we are consuming, mainly social media and all that, and we have seen signs that that's not actually helping. It's actually doing us a ill favor when it comes to building up skills and building up our capacity. So I think that in a way technology currently has two trends. It has this trend of maybe taking some skills away from us and at the same time requiring us to build more skills. So maybe that's my worry. But when it comes to do we have more jobs in the future, I think we will 100% have more jobs, but they will be different.
Sure. I think that's a great perspective. That's a great. So if I can come to you, Mr. Jadev, so you also, come from the field where it's more about, education. But in your past experience, you have been with the companies and you have seen that whole computerization adoption across the globe. And, so if I really look at current situation as an IT, there is still a huge gap in terms of right skills. If you talk about being faced, that's the challenge being faced by the industry. That's the number one challenge being faced by the industry. In fact, one of the studies even revealed that one of the factor which is affecting the growth of any startup today is lack of skills, desired skills set, the shortage of skill. So, your view on that, Mr. Jadev?
Sure. There's just a slight perspective over here. We work in the field of employability, and we believe
Employability.
we believe education is a very significant component of it. But what changes the whole and brings the magic element is the hands-on learning experience, which is missing today, and that is what is causing the whole issue of employability. I mean, a fresh graduate right out of the doors, by and large, industries have to reinvest in either preparing them for a job or preparing them for what is required. And what we believe is that if you marry both together, or what we call as dual parenting, bring a top-class university together along with a leading employer and create a program by which these kids get real-world experience while pursuing higher education. I mean, that's what creates the whole employability quotient. To answer your question, yes, it is the number one challenge. I mean, attracting talent has become a big issue. Skilling the talent is the next one. And more importantly, retaining the talent is another large issue that most industries face. Let's talk about the skilling. I mean, companies invest a lot of money in giving them the right skills, basics that should be available for any particular job role, and then the skill sets that are required for their industry or their product. But attrition is hurting these industries the most. I mean, we've worked with a lot of sectors, right from BFSI, FMCG, retail, manufacturing, and we've seen that the attrition rate at the bottom of the pyramid ranges anywhere from 4 to 20% a month. What this means is within a matter of 6 to 8 months, the entire workforce has to be replaced, and that creates a huge pressure on all the engines across the organization, not just talent attraction, but the sales leaders, the growth leaders, they are all hamstrung because of this. What is required is use of technology, and we'll talk about how this latest technology is helping both in the sector of education, skill development, engaging talent, and helping the talent be successful at the workplace very, very quickly. I mean, that's the broad picture that I would paint, and I think AI and these technologies have the ability to democratize access to skills, high quality education, high quality coaching at a very, very low cost. And this could be a pivotal moment, not just for the education space, but for industries as well. And ultimately, everyone will benefit out of this.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jaideep. Mr. Vikas, you are a successful entrepreneur. Mr. Jaideep spoke about talent that's coming in the industry, and you would have seen it firsthand, right? By getting that talent in the organization and getting to see how much effort it takes to kind of get them to a certain level where you can really deploy them in productive work in some sense, right? So, what's your take, or what's your view on in terms of the talent that you see today coming in from the colleges? How ready, how prepared they are with regards to the requirements that you have as an industry?
So that's a very good question, and I think I would first like to take the viewers and the panel also, way back 25 years. When I started my career in technology, I'm sure a lot of us would be aware it was COBOL, mainframes, right? And then I started my first job, and it was Sybase, and then Oracle database, and then we moved on to UI UX tools like Power Builder, and then came the front end GUIs, right? And now we enter into sort of from Web 1. And I would like to take this opportunity to tell the viewers difference between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 as well. There's a lot of discussion that's happening as to what is Web 3. So I would just like to tell the viewers, Web 1 was when we were just receiving data. Netscape 95, 96. We were just reading the data. That was Web 1. Web 2, when we started posting the data on the internet. And that's when we saw this, evolution of apps or softwares like, Facebook and social media platforms and Google. So we started writing on the internet. That's Web 2. And now we're witnessing Web 3, which is complete, immersive experiences. We're talking of metaverse. We're talking of blockchain. We're talking of NFTs. We're talking of digital assets. We're talking of cryptocurrencies. It's all happening in front of us. And I have been very fortunate enough to see this evolution happening from COBOL to today, digital assets and, metaverse, right? So the technology has been changing, and technology will always take precedence. It will always evolve. It is the businesses, it is the education, it is the employability sector, which has to keep pace with the change in technology, right? And, this is where we are. And just regards to your question that, the talent that we receive from the colleges these days, no doubt they are much aware. They're much, socially aware. They're technologically aware what's happening in different parts of the world. They're much more hands-on with the technology. But, we see there's a lot of upskilling still required. The hands-on job experience, exposure to the industry. Education is very important, but what they learn on the job, that makes a lot of difference. And that's where I would like to sort of say, uh, chat gpt and these AI language models, we have started implementing this in the company, and we can see a quantum jump in the kind of productivity, in the kind of output that we are seeing in our software engineers, the way they are now writing code, or rather they're deriving the code from chat gpt and giving it a finishing touches, working on the integration part right now. And it's resulting in a huge saving in productivity. And add to it the again on the employability, I would say, in my opinion, ChatGPT, the way it stands today, has a great potential to probably impact a couple of segments, which my opinion is customer service, for example. AI powered chatbots and virtual assistants can provide customer support 24 by 7. That should impact the human customer service assistance in a big way in the long run. Another thing that I see, in my opinion, is content creation, right? These chat gpt and models, they can generate content such as news articles, product description, that would reduce the impact of manual intervention. Third, I would see a big impact on the translation services. The way it can translate from one language to the another, we could see the impact on the human interpreters. And also another area, in my opinion, is going to be data analysis, and we started using that. These models can really analyze large amounts of data, and customer feedback, social media posts, your market research. So again, this should impact a lot of jobs when we talk of employability. That's the current status, that I think it could be multiple areas it could have an impact.
Sure, great. But that's great to know, Mr. Vikas, that when you're talking about the talent which just flows in the industry today is much more aware than what it used to be, and maybe 2 decades back or 1.5 decades back. That's wonderful to know. Dr. Raj, Dr. Lovi Raj, let me you know um, come to you and understand from you. You spoke about the whole evolution, right? So industry 4.0, you spoken about that. In terms of the universities or colleges today, right? From the education side of it, uh, what are the things that have changed today to bring up the kind of level of the students or the employees, fresh employees in the industry who are much aware and are much more kind of valuable in terms of having the basic knowledge and everything, that you have to invest as an industry a lot on them in the earlier years to today. So if you can help us walk through that path, please.
Wonderful, wonderful, Mr. Daya. See, I'll talk about all three aspects of it: the readiness, the role play by the university or the academic institution, and how to do predictive modeling about an individual. See, one very important thing which is very preeminent to understand as of now is that when Mr. Vikas was talking about that they are more aware, that they are technologically more aware, they are socially more aware, but there is a need of reskilling and upskilling. So I'll talk about what LPU is primarily doing. We are associating with the industry and we are creating associative programs wherein 40 to 60% of the program is delivered by industry experts and all the evaluation is done by the industry expert. So they bring all their expectations from day one to the day when they take these individuals to the internship, maybe 1 year internship or 6 months internship. So the bench time has reduced, the time to productivity has reduced drastically by having these kind of associations. And we're talking about wonderful and Fortune 500 companies pitching up in the programs. That is one
Excellent.
aspect of looking to it. Second aspect, as my co-panelists are talking about, that technology is coming as boom. We use a lot of these technologies, large language models or generative pre-trained transformers in the performance of the students, starting from the class test to the activity-based assignment which they do. And we have created dashboards on predictive modeling of a student and in real-time gauging where a particular student is missing on. And we supplement that learning to that. In this context, what we have done is from the very first day, we have instilled the concept of pathways in the student. That a student has to aspire for 6 basic pathways: corporate jobs, government jobs, higher studies, study abroad, entrepreneurship, and research. And since the very first day, an individual student decides, and then we decide a cohort for that student. Now, this cohort is an inherited skill set for a given profile under that particular pathway, and we map the skill set with the courses. So that is our sense of readiness, a gauging the students progress onto a predictive model. There is a model which is sitting and it is modeling me, that I need to rescale myself, my Python skills, because I'm participating in on HackerRank and HackerEarth, and it is extracting my skills from there. And it is talking about that I'm missing on maybe in pandas, so I need to take up this particular course to become more proficient in pandas. The third and the most important thing is each and every student at LPU creates the dream CV in the very first year and a Gantt chart, which Gantt chart is piously and religiously followed by both the practicing or instructors and the students. Now, you cannot go beyond that Gantt chart at any given point of time. So, all these 3 aspects, they address, those days are gone by. As far as LPU is concerned, those days are gone by when people were talking about bridging the gaps. We basically, escalate or scale up the connectivity between the 2 parties, the industry and the students.
Sure.
So, lot of wonderful things that I as a student carry a dashboard with me, and my teacher also has the opportunity to look to my dashboard at any given point of time in real time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Loviraj. I think this is insightful. You explaining all these things taking place in university today looks like the whole the way we used to learn in our colleges or university has completely changed and changed for much betterment, actually, much betterment. And that's where Mr. Vikas is coming and telling us that the gap today is not that high that or great that it used to be earlier, right? So, Mr. Santari, if I at this juncture, if I can come to you and take a kind of status check from you on what's the state in let's say European market, and particularly with your profile, you've been kind of getting a lot of foreign students, and that's where you kind of tell them clearly that you have a better, brighter career path for them in some sense, that they should come and be part of your ecosystem. So what are those technological advancements? As Dr. Loviraj had spoken, quite a few initiatives, interesting initiatives, right? So what is it that that you as an university you've been doing to kind of attract that talent that you wish to kind of further polish and make it much more useful for the industry?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, of course, as an applied science university, we are very hands-on. Like a lot of our teaching happens in laboratories. For example, if it's healthcare, we work with patients. They have a lot of practical trainings in hospitals or other medical centers. And what happened with for example, ChatGPT was that as soon as it was released, our students started using it, and so we just had to rush to set up like these sort of frameworks. Like, how can you use it as your part of your bachelor thesis? How is it? How is it cool? And of course, it came to a point where also like a lot of our teachers had to rethink their pedagogy in a way that ChatGPT, for example, or GPT-4, that is now used by all of our technology students as part of their sort of a package that they have available technologies to do coding or whatever they might be doing. To sort of so the questions, for example, would emphasize that the ChatGPT can rather bring the information forward and not write texts ready for the students. So of course, like rethinking this didactics and these pedagogical models was of course like the big hurdle for us as well. And of course, I mean, I don't think that this is any type of new pedagogical innovation. I think this has been going on for 20 years now. Is that that employers have been asking for 4 skills: collaboration, communication, problem solving, and critical thinking. And I think that it's even more this now, and really. When we think about how we are changing our curriculums and all, is to emphasize even more that core part, including of course like these new tools that are coming in, because I just think that today, if let's say if you want to get up to speed with current research, it's like one prompt in ChatGPT rather than going through like multiple journals, or maybe GPT-4 more because of the academic references that it can write. But I think that we just try to be at the bleeding edge when it comes to implementing these tools. So our students, when they graduate, they would have these 4 main skills, the latest tools, and of course a lot of this practical know-how. But maybe the main reason, maybe the question that you asked, main reason to come to Finland or come to Europe is this, of course, that we are extremely short on talent here as well. And in some cases, we can maybe offer better salary level, or maybe a different type of lifestyle that one could maybe experience in Asia, for example, more calm and all that. And of course, it's a matter of student preference what they look for. But I think that currently, even with this AI boom now happening, there's more and more career opportunities now available in Europe. So of course, it could be a great starting point for many Indian students as well to start their career maybe here. So, but that's of course personal preference. But maybe that was trying to put it in short.
Sure. No, fantastic. Thank you so much. And in your answer, you brought up a topic with regards to the framework, and I think that's something which is very critical, right? So I think, Mr. Jaideep, I would like to kind of ask you, and you must be aware of this recent incidents where large conglomerate, consumer durable brand, and someone just goes in and says that how can I make my job easy or more effective, and happens to upload some data on ChatGPT, and it happens to be a strategy document, and what happens after that. So I mean, what I clearly see here is that as the whole ChatGPT landscape is evolving, I think I'm not too sure how many companies have put in place a policy framework or something like that in terms of governance, risk compliance. That seems to be most critical thing to me on the sides of while the whole technological landscape is evolving and evolving at a pace that you and I, we cannot really kind of anticipate, right? So what's your take on that?
So one thing is for sure, we should consider these technologies and these tools as an extension of what we've been already experimenting with, a whole range of things. The AI policy should be an extension of the existing data security or data privacy policies that an organization has. But to just give a perspective, because the interaction with AI tool is so one-on-one, the policy should be drafted keeping in mind, of course, the governance, the risk principles, and all of those. But think of tools like ChatGPT as an independent third-party advisor. If to an independent third-party advisor, you would proceed with caution by not discussing your organization strategies or trade secrets and so on. You must exercise the same amount of control. Another thing is the management should encourage the the organization to use these tools with full disclosure on who is using what tool for what aspect of their jobs, incorporated as a part of their work process. Uh, Santeri mentioned that the university has already upgraded their pedagogy. I think that's a brilliant move. I mean, why try and fight it? Make it a part of the pedagogy and build the rest of the pedagogy on top of it. Similarly, within organization, if you have a content writer, you enable the content writer to use these tools, but with a full disclosure, put some guardrails around it, look at the privacy and the data sharing policies of these tools. So get a comprehensive policy in place. More importantly, I encourage all organizations to develop an independent AI policy to have two aspects. One is what is your own AI pathway. All organizations are investing in technology and algorithms. And also, what is your policy in terms of using these tools? Where do you want to use it? Which tools do you want to use? It should have a proper mechanism for the team members to say that, hey, I would like to bring this tool, and a quick review mechanism to say, okay, yes, this tool is acceptable to us or not acceptable to us. That would be very beneficial for a lot of organizations.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Um, you heard Mr. Jaideep talk about policy framework and certain guidelines, and obviously you are in the industry of the technology. What is it that you as an organization are doing around how to kind of adopt this chat GPT being embraced by the employees in their various work field? In some cases, curiosity sake. In some cases, they really want to kind of leverage this, and in some cases, they really want to play smart, right? So, I mean, how do you deal with this whole emerging scenario in your enterprise, or in your experience? What are the best practices or one should kind of follow?
That's a wonderful question, and like I always say, we are on the ground facing this wave which is being unleashed upon us. And 120 people working across different departments, from HR to finance to technology to marketing to social media marketing. So I'll share my experience, and probably I can. It's a very we have gone through this stage, so I can share it. As soon as we came across this, Chat GPT and the enormous benefits, I quickly decided to have a company-wide training on Chat GPT for a couple of days. So it was not only technology, it was all the departments and the top management. We went through the training ourselves with all the employees for about a couple of days, where we divided the teams into different departments, obviously, and we gave them the projects as to how you could do this better with ChatGPT. So, for example, HR. How could HR be automated using ChatGPT? How could finance be done? MIS reports could be generated using ChatGPT. How could compliance, operations? In addition, software is technology. We are a core technology company. So I'll give you some examples. We are using extensively now on these, code generation, testing, debugging. These three areas have immensely benefited us, and the programmers who were just sort of doing manual repetitive tasks of writing the code are now able to generate codes within minutes. The first draft is ready. Right? Other area that we really focused was on the QA automation. So all the testings, etc., going through, analyzing the test results, finding the defects, suggest the improvements. The entire QA testing has been automated. I'll share some good examples. Our programmers who had no experience of gamers, for example, are today generating games. And I can tell you, these games are not so simple. They are able to generate medium-sized complex games just by using ChatGPT. So the entire skill set of the company has started improving immensely, and the productivity has started improving a lot. And this is just the beginning, and we have
Mhm.
implemented this across the organization.
So good to know that you know as soon as you came across this evolution emergence of chat gpt, the first thought was how do we implement in our workplace and kind of achieve better productivity, right? Better throughput. And if that's the intent, and if you're doing it and letting your employees know the consequences of it, and the ideal ways to leverage this, I think nothing better can be this as an approach in my mind, right? So I really appreciate that. Great, fantastic. So I have one question, and please feel free to answer. Any one of you could answer this, but raise your hand and just answer this question. But you spoke about, Mr. Vikas, the code generation. You spoke about debugging. You spoke about the QA, right? I mean, and Mr. Jaydeep, I will definitely like to take your views on this, but typically in, let's say, IT outsourcing or staffing and recruitment industry, right? There are some stringent clauses in the contract that I see around which talks about plagiarism, right? And all the while I see the power of tools like Chat GPT, I'm not too sure how to handle these challenges. So maybe Mr. Vikas, maybe Mr. Jaydeep, or Dr. Lovi, or Santari, anyone, like how, uh,
Uh, I'll,
sure,
I'll begin
sure,
the
Dr.
thread
Lovi.
actually.
Yeah,
I'll begin the thread.
sure.
See, in education, the plagiarism plays a very critical and vital role.
Hmm.
Very, very. But now
Hmm.
we have understood that if people have developed Chat GPT, they're dev- they're the entire framework of Detect GPT is in beta testing.
Hmm.
So you can very well, out of a PhD thesis, you can figure out the torture phrases. In technical terms, they are known as torture phrases. They lie in the text, which are completely disassociated with the left word and the right word. So
Hmm.
people are into development. I'm one of the beta testers of these kind of sources, and
Hmm.
detect gpt would always help plagiarism.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
very importantly, to add to my panelists, I would say that in education, how we are using this chat gpt. Dr. Vikas would second me, if need be, that a we are now curating, crafting, and formulating situation specific problem statements.
Hmm.
And chat gpt is helping us quite a lot in that. Say for example, if I need to create even the simplest of the program of identifying the largest number of the inputted three numbers,
Hmm.
you ask large language models to build a situation specific assignment, and wonderfully well they build so wonderful situations that uh, students are now taken from numerical solving to problem solving state. And
Hmm.
that is where all of us, the educationists, the industry, would grow fonder. Because I as a student, or I as an employer, if I know how to handle the situation by extracting the problem statement and then solving it, then
Hmm.
we are ready for any kind of technology which is happening. The
Sure.
second very important
Hmm.
thing,
Sure.
the second very important thing which we do in education, that if a student writes a code, nowadays there is a concept of code smell, wherein the smell reflects the resource utilization, the time consumed to produce the output. And these
Hmm.
kind of tools, they can assess smell better than anybody else. So
Hmm.
rather than just simply going in for auto grading, we have moved on a little further. Not just simply passing the test cases, but passing the code smell tests as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Mr. Jadip.
I mean, plagiarism is not acceptable under any circumstances. While the ChatGPT is used to produce the first level of content, there are other tools available to check for plagiarism online, and of course, the paid tools do it much better than the free tools. From a academia perspective, what is important is the pedagogy is enhanced in such a fashion that the students are allowed to disclose that I have used these generative tools, and this portion of this percentage of my content comes from here. I have built my own research and my understanding on top of this. We'll have to come up with some frameworks. I'm not saying this is the solution, but we need to start somewhere. Within an organization, I mean, between colleagues, or even in organization, I mean, I don't think plagiarism should be acceptable. But if you've used third-party content, you need to put a full disclosure, give it the source credit, and make sure if you're using it for commercial purposes, you are checking out the license of the tools that produce the content for you, or the images, and so on. A lot of organizations have clear, clean, concise policies around this. And as an industry overall, we should continue to encourage businesses, employees, students, and the academia to have a clear guideline on the ethics of using third-party content or sources. Full disclosure should be made.
Mhm. Mhm. Mr. Santari or Mr. Vikas, anything you would like to add?
Well, I know that my colleagues here are much wiser about this, but I think that in general, if we think about how developers, at least in the West, are and I'm sure that this applies to everywhere in the world, how they are building their code is, they are taking pieces and pieces from different sources, putting them in together, sort of trying to solve the big picture with bits of technology that they borrow also from other people, and of course there are these rules that, okay, do you pay for that piece, or is this open source, or however it goes. But I think there's a very standard practice that why, like in a way, if we want to be productive, why would we do the same thing like over and over again? Of course, if it's like if it's practice in the academia to understand a basic skill, of course that's a different thing. But I think that that's anyway sort of the normal behavior. And if we think about, if we go to, I think this whole sort of an IP right thing is something that us modern people have in a way invented, because back in the days, let's say if you go to classical music, it was like the common thing to borrow a theme and play with it, and it was sort of like it was considered respectful that if somebody takes my great theme and uses it somewhere else, it was it was like a pride moment, but maybe not that much anymore. But maybe that's my quick comment on the topic.
Okay, Mr. Vikas.
No, I think I agree. I think that's we all need to be sort of developing the policies. We need to be ethical about it. The full disclosure should be there, and I think it will all evolve as we now move forward. The technology is being adopted. Awareness will spread up around it, and I'm sure the governments and like LPU, fantastic work is being done. They will all universities will evolve. Students will be made aware of how to use these tools. And I think we should be all positive and be optimistic about the future. And I think things will evolve from here. That's my view.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we are almost close, towards the end of our discussion today. So I just want to come back to the topic for the sake of letting everyone know that it's not as concerning or disheartening as people might be thinking, because we have lived through this, right? So it's not like we are suddenly hit by pandemic, something that no one has an experience of. But this is something we have actually, all the revolution that we have gone through in our experience, and have lived through this, and I've seen a world emerging, changing for better. I think everyone on this panel said the employment is not a concern. That's the key message that I'm taking here from the discussion, right? Um, we also heard, very, very clearly that there are things that are going to be learn, unlearn, relearn. It's not going to be the same at the same time, right? So that's another aspect that we've seen. So, any examples any one of you would like to share in your knowledge where you see the biggest impact of the Chat GPT, and how the jobs would shift from from one thing to another thing, right? So, if that's the kind of example that if you can think of and share with all of us, so that will kind of encourage and help everyone kind of deal with this whole issue of challenge on employability. So yeah, let's start with you, Mr. Santari.
Yeah, thank you. So, like one good report very recently was this Goldman Sachs report that 40% of jobs would disappear. But you can understand it in two ways. Like, let's put 100 people in a row, and then 40% of them will lose their job, or is it that everybody, by average, 40% of your job will be replaced by AI. And if you put it in a positive context, think about how much more you can achieve with your hours if 40% is done by something else, like upon your command. So I think that is extremely like a potential thing, and I think my bet is that it's going to be that way. I'm sure that there are skills that are no longer needed, and then there will be a more dramatic change. But then, of course, you go back to the university. We have let's say good universities here, but maybe a good example is that, I mean, doctors should have lost their job already 10 years ago because of AI. At least like the diagnostics were catching up some 5 years ago already, like at the pace of what the doctors can do it. But if we think about doctors as a good example, like currently in the West, doctors spend a lot of their time at typing things like the symptoms and other things from the patient and making a record. Okay, so well, we have natural language processing that can be done by the AI. The doctor quickly checks everything is fine. Okay. Huge, maybe 15 minutes of your 20-minute time with the patient is now focused on the patient, not on the report, as an example. And now if we look at like the skill set of doctors now, of course, it is heavily moving on assessing the human condition and like the behavior of the person, and all these social skills and problem solving skills are even more important, and sort of typing in a fast fashion is less important. So I think that could be a really good where now we have been hearing for 5 years that doctors will disappear. I disagree. I think that doctors will become much more productive, but their skill set will also change more into these 4C core skills from like what doctors have been doing, staring at their screens when you meet them previously.
Sure. No, excellent perspective. Yeah, Dr.
My closing remark would be that now these are the times when we all need to put our thinking caps on, because let the doers paradigm be with technologies like Chat GPT or large language models, or you call them Bard or Maggie or whatsoever it is, but asking the right question with the right intent and legitimacy is the only key. You need to teach people, you need to sensitize people to ask the right question. Then only you'll be having the best possible answer. People talk about critical thinking, logical thinking, design thinking. First, let us start thinking. Then we'll actually rise our bars to critical, logical, or design thinking. So these are the times, according to me, let's start putting our thinking caps. Going to be better and better every day.
Sure. Thank you so much. Mr. Jadip?
Thank you so much. And I think whoever's been listening to this panel by now would have understood what the direction of the closing comments would be. But nevertheless, I think, sure, some jobs will be erased completely. Some new jobs will be created, like prompt engineers and all that. I mean, it's a very exciting new field. It's a sunrise industry. Things are bound to happen. But by and large, there will be a huge productivity jump. As Santeri mentioned, Vikasji mentioned, I mean, they're already starting to see the benefits of that. But more importantly, it allows the person to start adding more value. Take some examples. I mean, if you're a blog writer, you can produce the basic structure of the blog literally in 4.5 minutes. That's plagiarism free. And then you can spend the rest of your time in putting the right context so that the blog becomes more engaging to the reader. The same can be applied to an animator, a software developer, a tester. I mean, the use cases are limitless. But this is definitely an opportunity for everyone to reskill, upskill, and reinvent themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas.
Yeah, I think my closing remark would be for especially students who are in the universities. They are being sort of fed this information that jobs are getting down like 40%, Goldman Sachs report and all. I would take this on a lighter note, and I would tell them they start using chat gpt in a much better way. For example, resume writing, it could really help you there, right? It could even have job search strategies. It could really advise you how to market yourself in the job fairs, different forums. Soft skills development. Use ChatGPT effectively to develop your soft skills, communication skills, your teamwork, your problem solving skills. You know, use ChatGPT for career advancements. Learn new skills. Be part of the education forums, participate in mentorship forums. So technology can be used by these students who are entering the job market in a much better way. Use this tool in a better way, right? And yes, definitely skilling would be required. And lastly, my closing remark would be that chat gpt and these AI language models, they increase efficiency and reduce manual intervention, but it is not the substitute for human creativity, creative thinking, and emotional intelligence.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful experience to kind of interact with all of you today. Thank you so much once again for sparing your time. I strongly believe, that between artificial intelligence and human intelligence, the relationship will always be artificial intelligence will always augment the human intelligence, which means it will make us more productive everyday basis, and we can do much better, much faster what we are doing more efficiently, as everybody mentioned. So there is no replacement of HI with AI, right? So human intelligence is never going to be replaced by the artificial intelligence, but it's always going to augment the human intelligence so that we can move quickly, move faster, achieve something that we would never ever have even thought of in our dreams. Perhaps with the advent of such technologies, we should take the advantage and achieving what we would have taken maybe a couple of decades to achieve in couple of maybe years or maybe a couple of months even. That's the enablement that I think we are all looking at it. Look at the current scenario from a lens where you have to assess yourself. Where do you stand? What are the skills that you need to kind of learn? How do you want to upskill yourself, or some of the skills that you do want to unlearn? And the jobs are there. So current times versus the chat gpt advent, it's just a coincidence, but there's nothing to do with the slowdown on the employment with regards to chat gpt. The employment opportunities are abundant. Industry is still looking for right people. We heard Mr. Santeri, the entire Europe is looking for talented people to come and serve there. There are many jobs that are waiting for you. So, time is great opportunity. Take the advantage of the advancement in the technologies to your betterment, as my speakers today have said in their talk. So, wishing all the very best to all the students who have been listening to this webinar today, panel discussion today. And once again, thank you so much for all the panelists for sparing time today. With that, I think we are exactly at 5 o'clock, 1 hour in the discussion. So we wrap here. Thank you so much once again for your time, and look forward to staying connected with all of you, and perhaps keep learning from each other's experience.